Hello everyone. So I was super excited to read all the various comments you guys left me on the video, and then also all the people that reached out to me, because I made that video for two reasons. One, my soul would literally not stop leaving me alone. I kept waking up and every day it was like, are you gonna make it? Are you gonna make it? Are you gonna make it now? And I think I kind of briefly explained that, how it terrified me. So that was one reason, to get my soul off my chest. And then the second reason was because I thought, if me opening up and answering these questions could help even one person, one girl going through this, it would be worth it. And based on the comments I got, I would say that goal was achieved, so that brings me so much joy. And I was really surprised to see how many people that aren't models reached out to me as well. And yeah, I really loved seeing that it opened up a conversation that people felt safe with, because that is a resource I really had wished I'd had back then. So I'm really just thankful that I get to kind of open up that space for you guys. I am going to be making future videos about the meditation techniques I've learned, books I've read, whatever, various things. Today I'm going to be addressing a comment that was left on that video, the last video. So if you haven't watched that, it might be helpful to go watch that video. It's in reference to that. But I felt there was a sense of urgency behind this comment, and so I wanted to expedite it to answering it right now before I make any other videos. And it was left by Anonymous Persona 4965. And it says, I'm so hard on myself the same way you were, by going to extreme measures to ensure myself a slight advantage over my competition in my field at the cost of sacrificing my own way of being, and I too had a gradual wake-up phase. I'm slowly allowing myself the space I need to heal by caring for myself and finally feeling okay to indulge in things I like, which have shaped into new hobbies for me, but you seem to be ahead of me in your journey, because I'm not at peace with myself, and in fact I do have regret. I feel a void in myself for not experiencing core life memories, and it's causing me a sort of discomfort that's led to a couple of unhealthy coping mechanisms to suppress my longing. When you were talking about it, you seemed so light in the way you said you have no regrets, and all of this was done to teach you what to avoid. Like, yeah, I get that too, but my energy is not as free-floating as yours at all, LOL. How did you move past it so confidently? So thank you for leaving this comment. And first of all, I just want to say you're extremely self-aware. Like, everything in here, I'll go through and point it out in more detail later, but you're on the right track. I'm just gonna start off with that. And I'm just gonna, start breaking this down basically. I mean, you're self-aware in the sense that you know you're being hard on yourself. Lots of people who are being hard on themselves don't even know. So I like to remind myself that the first step to solving anything is awareness. And I think you hear this in like AA meetings and stuff. You have to be willing to admit what the issue is in order to address it. You have to quite literally shine the light of awareness on something in order to start seeing it. Because if the light of awareness isn't there, you're just kind of in the dark, like, you can't even, not only can you not see what the issue is, you can't even see where it is. So the light of awareness really is the first step, and you've already got that on check. And it's hard to shine the light of awareness and admit to ourselves that we're being hard on ourselves, or that we're engaging in unhealthy coping mechanisms. A lot of people are not willing to admit it. Think about it. A lot of people, I'm not drinking too much, or oh no, me and my relationship, we're fine. We don't argue that much. And it's that very ignorance, it's that very fear of looking at what's wrong that belabors people from healing for so long. So, first step, you got it down. You're being hard on yourself, and admitting it is the first step. So, and you said that you're going to the same extreme measures to ensure the slight advantage over your competition at the cost of sacrificing your way of being, and then you gradually had a wake-up phase. So, yeah, this is kind of, obviously everyone's story is so individual, but there's a similar archetype to the hero's journey, which is you're playing in the 3D matrix, you're suffering more and more and more and more every day until finally you're just like, I have to wake up. And I think that's what it sounds like is going on here, right? You're like, okay, fine, things suck. You know, I'm hard on myself. I'm having a wake up phase, but okay, now that I'm awake to the fact that everything sucks, it doesn't make everything better. So I understand how frustrating that is, because I remember this part for my journey, and it was like, great, okay. And actually, sometimes it kind of feels like, remember those days I felt like, did things get shittier? Like, are things actually getting worse right now? Because the thing about placing our awareness on something is we're also placing our attention on it, our energy on it. So it seems to amplify it, right? But all that's happening is now you're processing it. You're starting to process it. Whereas before you put your light of awareness on it, you're just like, we're just not going to look at that. You just keep shoving it away. That doesn't mean it's not there. That just means you're not looking at it. And so when you look at it, sometimes it triggers even more feelings of suffering, even more feelings of anxiety, of worry, of depression, of, you know, whatever low vibrational emotion it's bringing up for you. And that doesn't mean it's actually getting worse. Again, the only difference right now is that you're deciding to look at it. It's still the same size problem it was. And now it's actually going to start shrinking, right? But I think that first step where you start to look at it is always the hardest. Because as soon as you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh. And it starts to feel worse. It's actually getting better. So that gradual wake-up phase is super imperative to the hero's journey. And you said you're slowly allowing yourself the space you need to heal by caring for myself and finally feeling okay to indulge in the things I like, which have shaped into new hobbies for me. But you seem to be ahead of me in your journey because I'm not at peace with myself, and in fact, I do have regret. Okay, well, I'm super happy, like this allowing yourself to have the space you need to heal by caring for yourself, finally doing things you like, new hobbies. That's super important, because essentially, you know, if you keep doing the same things, hanging out with the same people, doing the same, you know, bullshit, nothing's gonna change. So I do think allowing this space is, again, a super advanced part of your journey, is being okay with, okay, today I'm gonna do this new thing that I don't usually do, and what do I actually like to do, not just what the program of society is telling me to do. And you said the only difference right now is that you don't feel like you're at peace and you still have regret. So maybe it sounds like you're starting to do these things, you're starting to have space, but maybe as you're doing the new hobby or the new thing, you're just kind of like, you're not quite certain about it still. And that's normal. I mean, again, this video I made last week, you're seeing me post a lot of work. I was not always this like peaceful and no regrets. I had many regrets for a very long time. And this is not something that's going to happen overnight. I'm just going to be real with you guys. And again, that's not to say it can't happen overnight. I'm not going to put a limit on you. If you think you can do your shadow work in a night, kudos to you. For me, it was not overnight. And for most people, it's not overnight. And that's not a bad thing. That's not wrong. That doesn't mean you're not good enough. It's just realistically, depending on how much kind of bullshit you've just stuffed into your vessel, it all has to come out to be liberated. And that does come up in this feeling of unpeacefulness or regretfulness. And so for me, when I was starting to allow myself the space and room to have new hobbies instead of overworking out, I was like, well, I have all this free time. What should I do? Have new friends, feel okay to indulge in things like, eating a muffin if I wanted to, or like whatever it was, right? Because for me, mine was the eating disorder and the overworking out and the modeling. And for you, again, it might be completely different. But as you're starting to kind of like tiptoe into these new things, it's going to be uncomfortable. And that uncomfortability you could call as not feeling at peace. I think back to when I first was like, okay, I'm gonna eat carbs like a normal person. That first bite of pizza, I can't even say I was enjoying it because I was so caught up in the mind. And again, on a 3D reality, I am overcoming my fear. I am taking the bite of pizza, or I am not going to the gym and overworking out. But that's not to say I felt peaceful, even though on the 3D reality, I'm doing the right thing. And conceptually, I know I'm doing the right thing. It still felt extremely uncomfortable. And so then, luckily at the time I'm reading certain books and I'm just reminding myself like, okay, it is uncomfortable because I'm in the unknown. I'm quite literally doing something I never do. I'm going somewhere I've never gone before. But guess what? To change, you have to go into the unknown. Because if I keep doing the same shit, I'm going to get the same result. If I keep overworking out, I'm going to keep, not having health. If I keep undereating, I'm not going to have health. So this feeling of not being at peace is not a bad thing. It's just a part of the process. And I know it's uncomfortable, and I know you'd rather it just be peaceful and like, can we get to the rainbows and sunshine? But one thing I feel like a lot of people don't talk about is how the awakening process is not necessarily all peaceful. I think before I was really into all this, I was like, oh yeah, when I become enlightened, or when I start my awakening process, it's just gonna be like, I wake up and I'm like the Buddha, or I'm like Eckhart Tolle and I can just sit on a bench and be blissed out. And those things do come later on, but they come later on, again, unless you do your shadow work in a night. And those miracles do exist too, but you just need to be real with yourself and where you're at, because lying to yourself is inauthentic, and it's not going to get you to that true place of feeling blissed out on a bench. So for me, there's this quote I like to come back to that I'm going to butcher, but it talks about when you're aware that it's going to be uncomfortable and you choose to continue anyway, now you're on the path to change. It's by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Again, sorry, Joe, I totally butchered that quote. But point being is, when you keep waking up and reminding yourself, okay, today I'm going to do the right thing again, and it's going to be uncomfortable maybe again, but what am I going to do? I'm going to keep doing it because I know it's the right thing to do. And so, again, what are those things for you? It's really good to like just get out a piece of paper. What are the actions I'm going to take today that I know are good for me? For me, it was, I'm going to eat today. I'm not going to overwork out today. I'm going to say loving things to my body today. I'm not going to overanalyze myself in the mirror today. I would write down everything, and then I would inverse it to its equal and opposite positive if it was a negative statement. So for instance, I'm going to eat today, that's a positive statement. I'm not going to look at myself negatively in the mirror today, that's a negative statement because it has the word not. So I would inverse it to, I will look at myself lovingly in the mirror today. And so just make a list and then ensure that they're all positive statements, and then focus on that list. And keep reminding yourself, it is going to be uncomfortable, because I don't usually do this. My body is used to doing something else, and it wants to drag me into the known, predictable reality. I have to consciously keep reminding myself of what I'm going to do and why I'm doing it. What am I going to do? Boom, 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 boom. Why am I doing it? Because it's the right thing to do. Because I want to be healthy, because I want to be happy, whatever it is for you. So that's the first part of that kind of statement you said. And then you also said you do still have regret. So regret is a funny thing. I had lots of regrets too, by the way. Again, when I made that video last week, I waited a long time to really make sure, before I really outspoke about anything, that I didn't have regret, because I didn't want to come off as a victim, because I know that's the ego. I was very aware, if this is low vibrational, if I'm feeling they did this to me, then my ego's still working. And I became so devoted to love, so devoted to God, so devoted to source energy, that thing inside of you and all around you, that I said, I refuse to allow this thought of they did this to me, or regret of like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I refuse these thoughts to run rampant in my monkey mind. I am going to sit with them until they are no longer here. So I meditated through it. And it wasn't like one meditation, by the way. It was like months and months and months and months of daily, hourly meditation. So for everyone, it's a different formula. Maybe it won't take months and months and months for you. Maybe it'll only take a few 20-minute meditations for you. I can't say what that is for you, but what I do know is you need to sit with the regret. What do you regret? Literally, get out a piece of paper. What do I, Haley Snyder, regret? What do I feel like was done to me? Where do I feel like a victim? Why do I feel like I wish that hadn't happened? Write these questions down and answer them. And put on a timer. I don't know why, but sometimes when I answer questions, I put on the timer and I say, Okay, we're gonna write for an hour about this. Start. And then, okay, I think I filled them all out. I look at the timer. Well, it says I still have 30 minutes. Okay, let me keep answering them. You keep answering them until that timer goes off. And I guarantee you, if you sit a little bit longer, right after you think you're done answering them, you just sit. Wait for things to come up. Oh. Yeah, I guess I also do get that. Still 20 minutes, okay. Yeah, I guess I do feel like a victim there. So sit with yourself longer than you think you need to with these kinds of questions and see what comes out. You will be very surprised. And again, the urgency of when you think you're done, pause and give yourself 10 minutes more and keep doing that. And again, the only reason this regret is still here is because the light of awareness has not been fully cast upon it. In order to start the healing process, you need to channel that light of awareness so you can see what you're working with. Okay, once you know what you regret, now you can start to say, why? Why do I regret this? And have a conversation with yourself. So for me, journaling was a very, very integral part of solving my regrets, what I wish hadn't happened, all these things. And, I could spew out to you guys right now why it is I don't have regret, but realistically, for this to internalize within your own being, if you're watching this is a process you need to sit down and do with yourself. Because it might be inspiring for you to hear me say, oh, I don't have regrets because, I journaled through it, and me to spew out every single regret I had and why I don't have it anymore. But if you truly want the internal healing and restoration for yourself, this is just something you need to do for yourself. No one can heal for you. So I can only give you advice. Someone else on YouTube can only give you advice. A book can only give you advice. A teacher can only give you advice. At the end of the day, it's about what you take away from it and how you utilize it in a practice and an action to change some of your own internal chemistry. So I recommend sitting with your regret and putting that light of awareness on it. Okay, the next portion of your question says, I feel a void in myself for not experiencing core life memories, and it's causing me a sort of discomfort that led to a couple of unhealthy coping mechanisms to suppress my longing. Okay, so right here, again, amazing that you're aware of the unhealthy coping mechanisms that are trying to fill the hole that you feel is from missing out on core life memories. Again, I recommend, sorry, the neighbor is mowing the lawn, hopefully that's not too loud. Again, I recommend sitting with yourself and doing that activity I said earlier. And as for the unhealthy coping mechanisms, you could call that a craving, an addiction. And it is, cravings and addictions are spurred upon by a sense of lack within ourselves, right? And so it sounds like you know where that lack is coming from. It's from this, I wish I had those core life memories, or I hadn't wasted those years, or this or that. And so basically every time you start to feel these emotions and you see yourself reaching for the bottle or going for Instagram scrolling, or who can I call to just like get my mind off this, or whatever, I don't know what your unhealthy coping mechanisms are. But again, by the way, unhealthy coping mechanisms can be much more than food, alcohol, drugs, and sex. It can also be reaching for the phone to grab a friend just to distract yourself. It can also be shopping. It can also be, oh, I wonder what so-and-so is doing today. Or, anything that's distracting you is a coping mechanism. Because realistically, when those feelings are coming up, you can imagine it like this. Okay, you're just like, imagine you're a jar. And you're fine, you're having a good day, and then out of nowhere, like a little bubble comes up from the jar, and it comes into the seat of your awareness. And you're like, oh, I don't want to feel this thing. They're trying to liberate from your jar. Imagine there's a little jar, and every time you felt any emotion in your life, you drop a little marble into the jar. So you felt insecurity, you dropped a marble. You felt insecurity, you dropped a marble. You felt more insecurity, you dropped another marble. Oh, you felt happiness, dropped a marble. Joy, peace, love, insecurity. Okay, so now you have this jar, and it's filled with all these different marbles. Depending how many times you dropped insecurity, that's how much insecurity needs to come out. So if you're sitting there and say you start to feel this sort of discomfort, it means one of the marbles of insecurity or whatever low vibrational emotion you're dealing with, is trying to come up and be picked out of the jar. But guess what? There's this film right here at the top, and it's called your conscious mind. And it needs to pass through your conscious mind, pass through your awareness, be felt in order to liberate, in order to come out of the jar. So when you're feeling that discomfort, all that is happening is the loneliness or the regret or the low vibration of some sort that you stuffed inside of you at some point in the past is coming up to be liberated. It quite literally has to pass through that film of your awareness to come out of the jar and not be a part of who you are. And so when you feel that discomfort and you engage in an unhealthy coping mechanism, what you're saying is, oh, I'm gonna shove you back down. I can't deal with you right now. I can't look at you right now. I'm just gonna shove you back down. Guess what though? If you're already aware of it, that you feel discomfort, the marble is already almost out of the jar. You just gotta wait just a little bit longer so that it can completely liberate. Every time you shove it back down, you have to redo the entire process all over again. So, my advice for this is, well, hopefully that visual gave you some understanding. When you feel discomfort and you're able to say with your conscious mind, I feel discomfort, you are shining the light on what's happening, and you're remembering in that moment, oh yeah, if I feel discomfort, that means this marble of, regret is about to come out, and I need to let it happen. I need to watch it. I need to see it for what it is. I need to just let it liberate itself. Feel it to heal it. You've probably heard that quote. So the unhealthy coping mechanisms are you shoving the marble back down. So, the best thing I can say here is make a list of your unhealthy coping mechanisms. Become aware of what they are. So, is it skipping meals? Is it overworking out? Is it, what else did I used to do? Scrolling through Instagram? Is it shopping? These were just some of my own examples. But make a list of your unhealthy coping mechanisms so that next time you find yourself in the program and you're feeling so uncomfortable, you're reaching for the glass of wine, and then right as you're about to take a sip, you're like, this is on my list of unhealthy coping mechanisms. Why am I reaching for the glass of wine? And then in that moment, you can assess, am I reaching for the glass of the wine because I feel uncomfortable right now? Or, and then occasionally, sometimes you're going shopping, not because you feel uncomfortable, you're trying to shove a marble back in. You feel, you're just like going shopping, and that's fine. But you need to ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. And so when you make a list of your unhealthy coping mechanisms, you're more likely to remember next time you reach for that glass of wine, next time you go on that shopping spree, next time you pick up the phone to call that friend. Oh, am I doing this because I feel uncomfortable? Because if you are, realistically, what you need to do is sit, put the wine down, put the clothes back, put the phone down, and remember that right now you feel uncomfortable because one of these uncomfortable marbles of regret is right here at the film of the awareness, almost about to liberate out of your little vessel, and you need to just let it happen. And this takes practice. Again, this for me, I can't even begin to tell you how many times, even after I conceptually understood this, that I still was like, fuck it. No, I'm still gonna overwork out. I'm still gonna undereat. I'm still gonna do this because it's just too uncomfortable. I just can't sit with this. It's just too much. Because emotions are very real, they just take you for a roller coaster sometime. But it will get better. The more you remember, the better it will get. And it's not a linear path. It's not like once you do this once, you're like, oh, I'm just every time I feel uncomfortable and something's passing through the film of my awareness, I'm going to just, sit and let it liberate. No, sometimes you are going to digress and shove a marble back down. And that doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you're never going to make it. It just is a part of the process. And the healing journey truly, truly is not linear at all. And every time you become aware, you make progress. So I just like to remind myself of that. Yes. Okay, now the last part. When you were talking about it, you seemed so light in the way you said you have no regrets. And all of this was done to teach you what to avoid. Like, yeah, I get that too, but my energy is not as free-floating as yours at all, LOL. How did you move past it all so confidently? So, I've already touched on a few things in this, but the last thing I guess I'll say is that last sentence you say, like, yeah, I get that too, but my energy is not as free floating as yours. How did you move past it so confidently? So I can just like hear it in this message. I feel, yeah, I get it. Okay, like I get it. Conceptually, I understand. But how did you do it? Okay, no, I get it. You know, like these things are wrong, but how do you stop? Because I remember this was me like a few months ago. I'd be like, okay, you know what? Like I get it. You know, eating's good, and you know, you don't have to earn food. I get all these things conceptually, but why can't I stop indulging in the under eating? Why can't I stop indulging in the overworking out? Why can't I stop judging myself in the mirror? If conceptually I know it's wrong to judge myself in the mirror, why can't I stop doing it? And it would get me so angry, you guys, because I just remember there's so many nights where I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy shit, you know? I remember praying to God being like, dude, sometimes I call God dude. I'd be like, look, dude, okay, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to be healthy and I'm trying to be happy and I'm trying to eat, but it's like so hard for me. And I would get so angry at God and I would just say, you know, you gotta help me. And I would kind of like yell at God. And so this is funny because the kind of more worked up you get, it's almost like like you can feel it, right? You know, when you're angry, you can like feel it in your chest. Like I need to punch something or I need to do something. So it's part of the process, you know, feeling angry and again, not saying whoever left this comment is angry, but feeling that sense of urgency, like, okay, I get it, but how, is actually collecting energy for you to take action. Because basically, one day, you're going to get so fed up that you're just going to start doing the right thing. That your mind, your conscious mind, is going to make an intention with such firmness that your body won't be able to keep dragging you into those old habits. And so my advice for this is to, every time you remember that you conceptually understand it, but for some reason your body won't get online and do what it's supposed to do or not do what it's not supposed to do, sit there and meditate and pray on that. So what do I mean by meditate? I mean, if you literally have a meditation practice, quite literally meditate. Go into the void, allow the subconscious mind and the conscious mind to connect so that you can override the program. If you don't know how to meditate, then I highly recommend getting into something that puts you into a flow state when this thought comes up of, yeah, I get it, but how do I stop doing it? And actually really just every day, whoever's watching this, getting into a flow state or a meditative state is very key to transcending all the things, you know, getting online with all the things you know you should be doing or know you should not be doing. And basically, you can declare something with your mind, with your prefrontal cortex, which is 5% of your mind, and you can say, I know eating healthy is good. But then, you know, your body drags you and it's like next thing you know, you're eating junk food. It's because 95% of your mind is your subconscious. And so 5% versus 95% is like, yeah, you know, you're going against a program that is really, really strong. The ego is a really strong thing. So you can declare things with your conscious mind again and again and again. But unless you infiltrate that subconscious mind and change the programming in there, it's going to take a long, long time. So next time you remember with your conscious mind, oh, I should be eating, or I should not be working out this much. Hold that intention in your mind and then get into a meditative state or a flow state is my recommendation. Because when you meditate or get into a flow state, you change your brain waves. As your brain waves go down, it connects that link between your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, and you're able to get in there and rework some programs. So when you set an intention before you do one of these things, you will come out and quite literally your brain will have changed. So examples of a flow state, if you don't know what those are something like writing. You know, for certain people, writing's a flow state. They just get super into it. Next thing they know, they've written like 10 pages. Or reading is another flow state. Surfing, any form of sport for some people. Doing art, you know, painting, drawing, going on a walk for some people's a flow state. There's countless ways to flow. You know you're in a flow state if you're getting so lost in the act that you don't even have sense of time. You know, you started painting and then Next thing you know, mom's saying it's dinner time. You're like, whoa, has it been 4 hours? I don't even know. I was just like so in it. I just became one with the paintbrush. So that's how you know you're in a flow state. So pairing an intention with a flow state or a meditation is super powerful to getting into that subconscious and changing the programs. Because yeah, I get it. You know, you can conceptually say certain things, but it's not going to help you change until you get into where the programs are stored. So that's all my thoughts on that comment. I felt that it was very urgent and I wanted to respond to it. I hope this helped. And if you guys have anything else you want me to talk about or speak about, whether it has to do with modeling, body image, whatever, let me know. I'm going to be making a video in the future talking about my meditation practice, and then probably in the future I'll make some videos about books as well. But yeah, that's all I have to say right now. So have so much fun throughout the rest of your day, because fun is the reason you were born. Bye.